Fabulous, thank you. Do I have control of the screen?
Let me see if I can get that to you.
That'd be great. Well, everybody, while he's doing that, it's great to be here. I'm excited to show you. There we go. It's great to be here and show you guys some of the things that some of the frequently asked questions we get. I do want to point out if you do have some questions, you can go ahead and answer or put them into the question box, and if we have some time, we'll get to those questions as well. But hopefully, I'll answer most of your questions as we get going. Um, the first thing I want to do is I want to show you the mobile app. And then I'm going to show you the web version. And I'm going to go through all the little nitty gritty details of Taxbot. But I did want to point out one thing. You'll notice on our website, we're just installed a support chat. So if you do end up having a question like or something about that your account not working or whatever, we're getting this feature ready to be totally staffed. Sometimes it's not fully staffed yet, but if you do have a question, you can leave a message there, and somebody will look into why something you might have an issue. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the mobile app first and walk through this. Um, but before I do that, actually, I'm going to show you one of the things that we've done with Wake Up Now, as you might have seen, and I don't have access to it right here, is our single sign-in from the back office, from your Wake Up Now back office. So if you've noticed, you can go into your Wake Up Now back office, and there's a button, and you can click it, and it automatically launches Taxbot and logs you into the online version. There's been a little bit of confusion because the the uh, the, the mobile app makes you put in a username and password, whereas the online version you're logging in with your Wake Up Now information. We don't make you log in twice when you're logging in through Wake Up Now because you've already logged in once. We know you are who you are. But when you're doing the mobile app, you may have to do that. So if you don't know what your password is, if you can't get in on the phone, but you can get in online, first thing to do is come to the website and click this forgot change password option, and it will allow you to put in your email address and send you a token so that you can reset your password. So if that's an issue, you can't log in on the mobile phone, that's the place to go. This forgot change password thing. Okay, so let's go over the mobile app. These guys asked me to come on and share some best practices and things uh, with the mobile app, and we have had some amazing response the last 60 days from Wake Up Now. Tons of people have been using the mobile app, and we can see the numbers just skyrocketing. Of the people that are using it, the average person is logging 40, 50, 60 deductions in a month, and and sometimes some of them are even going way beyond that. So you need to start using it if you're not. But here's how it works. I like to use the example of going to meet a friend for lunch to talk about the Wake Up Now business opportunity or something like that. As you leave your house, it's very important. As you leave your house, click the Add Trip button and start tracking your mileage with the GPS in your phone. The first time it might come up and ask you for permission. Start tracking. I promise you guys that the mileage deductions alone will probably account for half of what you do as far as deductions this year. It is a huge piece, and if you're not tracking even the little miles, if you're going a mile down the street and a mile back, that's 2 miles. That's $1, and it might not seem like a lot, but over half of my mileage, which was over 30,000 miles this year, were little trips. 1 and 2 and 3 mile trips that are going to save me, 5, 6 grand on my taxes this year. So I recommend you always track your trip. Find reasons to do that. When you get to your destination, you're going to hit this little arrow up in the upper right hand corner, and you're going to click Stop Mileage Tracking. Lap Start New Trip. We get some questions about this. All this does is it stops the current trip and starts a new one. So if you wanted to create a point of interest where, let's say you're going to go visit client A, and you wanted to record that as its own stop, but you're going to go right on to client B and you're only going to be with client A for a minute, you can click Lap Start New Trip, and it's going to stop the trip, but it's going to start a new one in the background. Restart trip tracking, sometimes somebody accidentally starts it when they shouldn't have, and cancel trip tracking obviously stops it. So I'm just going to go stop mileage tracking, It comes back with the starting and ending address for you. The total mileage would be here if I actually went somewhere. And then all you really have to do is put in the description. And you want to be as descriptive as possible on these things without uh, getting too crazy. So you might want to say, biz op meeting with Johnny Appleseed. Can't spell, but biz op meeting with Johnny Appleseed. That's clear, that's concise. If the IRS ever questions you, you can say exactly what you did. You showed the biz op to Johnny Appleseed. If you're going there and back, which I recommend doing this as much as possible, because most of your trips you'll find are repetitive, you can click round trip and it will just double that mileage that's up in this category up here. Now, you can track multiple businesses and multiple vehicles. So if you have, you'll have a default one set here, but if you have other ones installed or activated, you can click My Business and you can pick the test categories. If you want to add a new business, click up here and just enter the new business's name or the new entity. Sometimes husband and wife or spouse, sometimes they set up separate entities because they want to track who's doing what individually. That's a good way to do it, setting up, each person having their own entity back here, even though they all are the same company, they set them up here. We also have a lot of people that set charity up and medical up back here so they can track those things separately outside of their business. So if you want to do that, that's an option as well. So and the vehicle, there's always a default vehicle, and you can set the default vehicle, which I'll show you in a minute, but you can always add a vehicle as well. So if your spouse has a car and you're taking her car or his car out for some business, you can simply just add a new vehicle right here as well. So I'm going to leave it as the default, and I'm going to go ahead and click save. And well, first let me show you attach expense. Attach expense basically allows you to connect the record to a previously entered expense. So if I click that, it brings up previous recent expenses that I've had. So if I haven't recorded an expense this trip, I can always do it the reverse. But I'm going to go ahead and say it was related to this marketing meal and click save. It just shows now that it's been attached, and this is good for if you're going on road trips or business trips where you're going to spend multiple days in one location. You can tie your expenses back to the mileage or the trip. So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and all that information is now stored up online. If you want to make sure it is, you can click this little sync button in the corner of this arrow. Clicking that will make sure that it tries to send all your records up to the cloud, and then it'll turn back white again when it's done. We do have a manual trip on the mileage that I want to show you. And basically right now it's pretty basic. You can click on the number and put in the total distance. So you could say, it was 23 miles. Or you could go to the odometer and you could put in the starting and ending odometer. So if your odometer was at 100 and then your odometer was at 230 and I click save, that's going to pull it into 130 miles. Put in the description and then the starting and ending address. We are working on some cool features for reverse lookups here, kind of like what we have on the web app if you've seen the web app lately. But anyway, there are a couple of different ways to record manual mileage. Expenses. Okay, so you've driven to meet with somebody. You're going to do lunch, talk about the biz opportunity meeting. You can add expense and pick your category. It's super simple. If there are different types of categories, there are appointment type categories where you're meeting with a client, and then there are general type categories like your office supplies and things like that. Depending on which one you pick they have a little bit different requirements for the IRS. So I'm going to pick a meal, and it automatically asks me the question. So I'm going to put in a purpose here, and again, you want to be pretty specific. So I'm going to say asked for referrals for Wake Up Now business. I'm going to put in my total amount. I spent $32.32. Where we ate at Chili's, I just ate there. The dates filled in, the who. You can either type in the person if you don't have them in your phone, or if they are in your phone contacts, you can click here. I just don't have any contacts in this phone. But you could pull from your contacts on your phone. So I'm going to leave it as Johnny Appleseed. And then I could go attach receipt here and open my camera. Now I don't have a camera on this simulator, but many of you have seen this. You open up a camera, snap a picture, it shows the image here. You click done if you're satisfied with it. If you want to pick a different one, you can go to your camera again and take a picture. Once you attach a picture, you'll see a check mark right there telling you that it's been attached. And then like we just did in reverse on the previous one, I can attach a trip back to an expense. So I can click on trips and it's going to show me recent trips that I've made. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this back to some trip if I'd like. And you can see it's linked. Now I'm going to click save and everything's done. And that's the majority of all you have to do on your phone to be able to accrue huge deductions for your business. People always ask me what's the difference between an expense and a deduction. The answer is that a deduction is properly documented. Most accounting systems don't account for the extra stuff. QuickBooks doesn't account for the information about who you met with, what you talked about at the meeting that justifies it as a business expense. They're great. It's great software for knowing what's going on in your business, but not for bulletproofing you against an audit. A couple of other things I want to go over. You can obviously go on the trips and the expenses tabs. You can see recent information. You can also go and edit recent trips. So if you accidentally put it on the wrong date or something, you can go back and change the date to the correct date. And everything's totally editable. Same with expenses. You can add a receipt later if you forgot to snap a picture of the receipt. Reports is just some very basic information about how much you're spending, things like that. We're actually expanding the functionality of the reporting coming in the next several weeks. So you'll see a real nice upgrade here. And then tutorials. I'm surprised at how few people click on tutorials, but these are actually videos of what we're going over tonight. So the first thing you should do when you sign somebody up in the business is have them log in and go to the tutorial section here. They can click this and they can watch a video on how to use the app, just like we're doing right here. So they're built in right into the thing. They can click it and watch a video. It'll pull up. It's
Tracking an
screenshot right
expense
on the
is
video,
simple.
just like that. I do want to go over settings real quick. We have had some questions on settings. And depending on where you are, when you do come into settings, we are set up for US or Canada. So you can simply switch Canadian dollars and kilometers. And that will affect your total deduction calculations because we do base that on whether or not what your settings are set on. So a Canadian user would come in here and just change their settings with the tap of 2 buttons. And they'd be good. I'm going to leave mine on US dollars for a minute. You can also, at the first of every year, on the front screen, you're going to see a little bar that pops up here that says enter your yearly odometer reading. And so every January 1st, you'll see that pop up, or the first time you download the app. You can always come back in and edit that later and put in your vehicle odometers. So you can add an odometer, you pick your vehicle. So I have a vehicle called Gina for some reason. And I put my year and I put my total beginning odometer mileage. It's 112.58. That's important because at the end of the year, you have to report your beginning and ending odometer readings as well as how much you drove for business. So if you have the beginning and ending odometers and you ended up driving 10,000 miles for business, then you can easily display that information to the IRS that, hey, I drove 15,000 miles total, but 10,000 miles was business. Here are my beginning and ending odometer readings. So make sure you pay attention when that thing pops up every January 1st. Within settings, you can also set your entities and vehicles up. You can add them here, but you can also set your defaults in here. So if I click on one from here, I can make that my default entity. And I can do the same for my vehicles. I can make one my default vehicle. So now when I go and add an expense, the default entity is going to be the test. So this is system-wide. So if you are using this with a spouse, we would suggest that you select the default one as for the person who is logging the most expenses and deductions, because it will set it across the whole system. So if you set it on this phone, and you've got another phone attached to the same account, it will default to whichever one is on both of them. It will default to whatever you set it as. So that's one question we get asked a lot. Another question we get asked a lot is personal. Very, very few people use this, but some people use this to track their personal. They want to track some personal expenses. If you click personal, it just flags it in the system as personal and doesn't include it in your deduction calculations. Um, but that is that's that question. So that's the mobile app. I'm going to show you the web app real quick and answer some questions there. There's been a lot of questions about the web app because we've recently launched the changes here. So the online functionality is pretty much the same. You can log an expense by going to the expense tabs and clicking add expense, and you get asked the same questions you would on the mobile phone. You can attach a receipt. We allow you to, I have to put in description first. I'm just going to put in test. You can attach multiple types, so you can attach PDFs or JPEGs on the online version. PDF support's coming to the mobile phone soon, but you can attach a receipt. It will upload and it will actually display in line in here. Let me see if I have a picture here. Just put a picture of something, an ant. So it shows up in line now, so you can see the picture, the receipt right on the same page as the expense, which is pretty cool. The other thing that is new online is the trips. So let's say you forgot to track your mileage. That's the number one complaint we get about the mobile app is, oh, I forgot to start my mileage tracking. This is the best thing you can do. Log in after online, and you can go. Let's see. This was a sales call with Wake Up Now, and my starting address was 500 South Salt Lake City, and my ending address was 800 North North State Street, Orem. I don't know if that's a real address, but we're going to try it. It is a real address. Okay, so it automatically computes my route for me, and I can interact with this route. So if I actually, let's say I came down through the 215 freeway instead of up there, I can actually change the route, and it changes the total mileage up here for me. So I can recreate a trip based on using this Google Maps integration. So everything works just as slick. I can round trip it still and click save, and now that route has been saved. If I go in and edit that, go to the edit mode, you'll see that it's actually been time stamped and you can no longer edit it. So we just, it protects you, and it protects and makes your records more bulletproof, because now you have hey, I didn't just come in and change all my records at the end of the year to get more deductions, but it's actually bulletproof in there. So you can always delete it and add a new one if you want, though. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. The reports section, especially right now, there's a lot of questions as tax season's coming along. Let me show you how I do it. You can set a date range, obviously, for everything now. So I'm going to go back, and January 1st, 2013 is not right. So I'm going to go back to January 1st, 2012 and set my date. And I'm going to go back to December 2012. And I can filter it by business. So let's say I have a couple of businesses going on. I can say I only want information from my business. I don't want any personal records in there, and I click apply. And it will only show me now on these 4 tabs across the top, only show me expenses for what I put in the filter. So under this one, I have advertising of $23.75. I have cleaning of $150, computer expense. Notice my meals and entertainment are taken out at 50% for the deductions. So because that's the IRS standard. So everything, I can download these reports, I can print these reports, and they come out really beautiful with charts and everything. And then I can move to my next business. So I print out I don't have anything for that business, but I can print out the information for the particular business. If you have questions, you can click these help buttons up here on these pages, and they all have videos that walk you through kind of what we're doing here. So look for the little help icon on the page next to the print button, and that will be a big help to you. You can also do expenses by month, so you can just see your total expenses, when you're spending the most. how seasonal your business seems to be. Distance by month, so I can go back and say, I had X amount of miles for each month, and here's where at the end of the year too, you can come and grab your total mileage for the year, and so you can report that to your accountant or in your tax preparation software. Um, these three reports are going to be the most helpful for you putting together your taxes. The tax report is really the backup data for all of your information. And the way that it works is you can pick the date range, and then you can choose to download receipts or leave the receipts on the server and just download the backup information. Um, but you click request report, and it's going to then be being built. And sometimes with all these images, it takes a little bit for us to gather that information. So it's working in the background. I can come back here in just a minute, and it will be ready for me to download. Um, See, now it's good. It's ready to be downloaded. Expires in 2 days. I can click that. Everything will just dump to my computer. So I have all of the backup data. Um, the other big feature we've launched recently is the banking, and I hope some of you have gotten in to test this. Uh, but the banking feature, the way we do this is interesting. We actually connect to your bank account, and then we only pull transactions that are not already in Taxbot. So every day we go in, look at what's the charges are hitting your bank account, and we only show the ones that you have missed. So we're really just looking for missed deductions, and uh, and so come in here every day and just take a look. And if something pops up, then you can say either hide with the minus sign and say that wasn't business related, or you can say, yeah, that was business related, and it will automatically input it into the form, everything that we have. All you got to do is just make sure the information is correct and maybe add a few things. So this was a computer expense. I changed the category to computer expense, and maybe this was for a laptop or something like that. And click save, and it imports that one and then takes you back to the transactions page so you can look for missed deductions. When you first put tie your bank account to this, it will pull 90 days worth of history, and so you might have a lot the first time you log in, especially if you have not been using Taxbot. But it's a great way to get started. Log in, attach your bank account. You got 90 days worth of stuff to import into your Taxbot. You'll see your estimated deductions jump right through the roof, as long as they were, uh, business related. The education library, we have two things back here. We have the blog, where Sandy posts all of his, a daily tip or financial tip that he writes on the blog. Great information that comes through there. And we also have the library. The library is your go-to place for understanding your home-based business. If you go to the library, you can either choose United States or Canada, and you can pick a category. So I'm going to say I want to know about entertainment, and I can know about entertaining in my home. And then you get a quick video here of Sandy in 5 minutes or less explaining how you can write off entertainment in your home. So if you're inviting people over for a Sunday meal or something like that, there's a way to write that off. And we walk through the ways on how to do that. So spend some time in the library, because there literally one tip can save you thousands of dollars for the rest of your life. And we got all sorts of stuff in there, from hiring your kids, equipment, how to double deduct your equipment, what are the home office rules, what about meals, what about travel, um, my vehicle. All those things are back there and ready for you to learn. Finally, the help section. We've tried to make some frequently asked questions back here so that you come to help and you can say, oh, I have issues I want to learn about my iPhone or my Android or online. And you can click on them, and it will have some basic frequently asked questions, how to download the app or how to track my mileage. If I click on those, then I get videos and tutorials and ideas on how to possibly solve my problems. Then there's some troubleshooting things. If you have some questions, or you have somebody in your organization that is having some issues, here's a great place to go and get some quick answers. And you can click between, these are all specifically for Android, and this is all specifically for online. And again, you'll see the chat feature down here. You can always leave us a message too. You can just drop in your name and email, and we'll look into any issues and get back with it. Settings is pretty much the same as it is on the phone, except for you can edit banking logins. So you can attach your bank account here and put your make sure you've got your account connected properly. And then um, up in the upper left hand corner and on the mobile device, you'll see we always display that number of what you've got for deductions. And this has been such a phenomenal tool for recruiting. And I would suggest that if you are not tracking your expenses, that you are missing huge opportunities for recruiting. Not only are you missing the deductions, but you're missing huge opportunities because you have the ability to now, as that number grows, share that with other people. You go to lunch, you start snapping pictures of receipts. People start asking you, well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm tracking my deductions for my business so I can get paid the minimum legal amount of tax that I owe. It's been a phenomenal retention tool too. As somebody comes into your team, it's basically an accountability tool because you can look at it and say, okay, show me your Taxbot. Have you been working the business? Have you been tracking your mileage and talking about the business? If there's no deductions, then chances are they're not really out promoting the business like they should be. Or if they are, they're not documenting it properly, and therefore they're leaving deductions on the table. So I would strongly suggest you build an organization or a culture of accountability, and accountability means accounting. And so as you do this and build this, we've seen phenomenal results with being able to share that because most people don't know, especially in the direct sales industry. Most people have never owned their own business, or a lot of people have not. And so for them, this is a new thing, and it gets really exciting to see those numbers uh, creep up and creep up rapidly. We just did a study, a pilot study. We took 200 new subscribers and watched what they did for for the month of February, and 200 people had over 525,000 deductions in this case study, which is $2,500 per person, which equates to something like $850 in cash savings. So that's pretty phenomenal. That's basically funding their business. So I don't really have a lot more to show you back here unless somebody has some questions. I don't see any questions.
Jake, if you don't mind, I've grabbed out a couple questions that have been asked. If you don't mind me asking you, I know your time's short. I'll just go through a few questions if that's all right.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great. One of the questions we had was somebody has a few people on the webinar that haven't quite committed to Wake Up Now yet. They're looking, they're interested. And if you wouldn't mind, if you could give me just maybe a 30 to 60-second elevator pitch of why deducting your taxes, why it's such a powerful thing to have as part of Wake Up Now.
Absolutely. There are two tax systems in this country. And when we say that, most people say there's one for the rich and one for the poor. But the reality is there's one to make you rich and there's one to make you poor. The government wants small business to succeed, and so they pass good tax laws for small business owners. The problem is that most small business owners don't know about them, or if you're an employee and you have a regular job, you don't know about all the great tax benefits, and therefore you don't take advantage of them. But any tax deductions that you can accrue in your own home-based business can be used against other forms of income. So if you've got a day job and you make, $50,000 a year, but you can create deductions in your Wake Up Now business, you can use those deductions against the 50,000 at your day job, which dramatically changes what you pay at the end of the year. Most people don't think that they have a tax problem because they get a refund, but somebody paying 50,000 or making $50,000 a year at a job is really paying, somewhere in the neighborhood of $13,000 in taxes, and they get maybe a $1,500 refund, and they think, oh, I must be doing pretty good on my tax reduction. Well, the problem is you still paid, 12 grand in taxes. You just did, you felt good about it because they gave you a refund. So I would say, there's two tax systems, and if you're not taking advantage of owning your own business, I'd say you're leaving money on the table.
Okay, awesome. That's a perfect answer. We had a couple people. This is an aggregation of a few questions, but they just asked about managing your TaxBot from multiple apps. So if you and your spouse both want to get TaxBot, log into the same account, can you do that and manage multiple accounts from or one account from multiple devices?
Absolutely, yes. And there's a couple ways that people do that. They either one set up separate entities within the same Taxbot account and they track their stuff individually, or if they're just working on the business together and they don't care about who's spending what as long as it's all rolling up to the same accounting, then they just they go ahead and use it. So you can log into the same account, same email, same password on both on both phones, one for each, one of those uh, one for each person that's involved in your account, and start tracking at the same time. You can use them both at the same times. You can track mileage at the same time. Um, they operate independently, but then they send their information to the same source, same cloud server. So uh,
Perfect.
it's really easy.
That's awesome. We had a couple questions about the modifying a trip. Would you mind going over that just real quickly, showing us how on this web interface that you can, change your route that you went, modding your map?
Sure, absolutely. And you can only change it for ones that you're inputting right now. So if you recorded something on your iPhone or your Android, you can't go in and modify the actual route, but you can come in here and you can put in my test, and you can just put in the addresses, and it's pretty good at guessing where you're going. I mean, guessing what you mean. You don't have to be exactly specific all the time, but you can put in an address: 135 West, 200 South, Layton, Utah, and then let's do Main Street and Second and 200 South, Salt Lake City. I'm trying to mess the addresses up a little bit so that you can see that it still gets the address pretty good. Then what you can do is it's just totally interactive. You can grab any part of the route and you can just drag it over here and say, I actually went this way. And then I actually took this street up here and came this way. And you can just change it. And the whole time it's calculating the correct mileage. You can get really detailed if you want to zoom in, and you can say, you can just start crossing all sorts of weird streets if you want. I guess there's not a freeway exit there, but you can start to get pretty creative with routes. You can recreate routes is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's
Pretty.
perfect. Hopefully, Mike and Susie, that answers the question that you were asking there. Um, we had a couple others. We'll just go through a few more of these questions. And guys, remember, if you ever have any questions about TaxBot, you can always email support@wakeupnow.com, and we can get the questions answered right from the source if we need to, and make sure we get all your questions answered. So we have more questions than we'll be able to go over tonight, but I'm going to go through a few of the other questions that we have. So we had a few people ask about other platforms. We understand we have iOS, which covers the Apple devices. We have Android. Is there any plan for other mobile devices, specifically Windows Mobile, or is there a mobile version that you can go log into? How do they work with another phone?
Great question. We've designed the new website to be mobile friendly. So if you have a mobile phone, and it's not perfect yet, we're still working on it. But if you looked at this on a mobile phone, you'd see something kind of like this. So you can go to your expenses tab, and you can add expenses and trips. You can do some of this stuff on the mobile phone now, especially if you have like a Windows phone. But we do have plans to do a Windows phone. We've kind of been waiting to see who's gaining more traction, Windows or BlackBerry, if BlackBerry was going to make a comeback. But it looks like it's pretty clear that Windows is going to be the next platform that we're building for.
Fantastic. One more question here. If you could just talk about the banking integration and the security of somebody attaching their bank account to TaxBot. What kind of security measures are taken? And how can somebody feel comfortable attaching a bank account to TaxBot?
Great question. So we actually we everything on our site is protected by 256-bit encryption over secure socket layers, and so our site itself is very very secure. But even to go to the next step, we wanted to make sure that if somehow some way somebody got into our system, uh, that there would be an extra level of security. So what we did is we integrated with the system that actually we don't store any bank accounts numbers or passwords on our system. You put in your username and password the first time to connect your account. As soon as you connect it, we sort of make a handshake through a provider that is audited by Bank of America and all the major banks twice a month for security breaches and for security protocols. So it's a very secure platform. And then as soon as we make that handshake, the password and the account number get completely wiped from our system. So there are no usernames and passwords stored within our system that anybody could ever have access to. So not only is it secure, but then we have that extra layer of security. And if somebody did ever, break in just to your account or something, all they would be able to see was that that Joe spent $50 at Target. There's no income information. There's no personal information. It just would have strictly expense information, which wouldn't be that helpful for somebody.
Awesome. And Jake, I know you have to go, so I have one last question for you. This is more of a technicality one, but I think a few people have had this. They said when they put their new odometer reading in to stop deductions for 2012 and 2013, they said it kind of overran. Is there a way to stop a 2012 odometer reading and start a 2013 odometer reading?
You can edit the odometer readings. You can are completely customizable, or not customizable, but editable. You can just come in here to your vehicles, and you can click on the add or edit odometers, and I can see my odometers. So if I had messed one up, I could come in here and I can say, and it really wasn't 145,000. It was 142,000 because I was late in putting it in. And they can edit them. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think that covers it. Gloria, I hope that answers the question for you. Um, so, Jake, I'm going to let you go, but I just want to recap real quick. So the most frequently asked questions we had: if you have another device, um, if you have another device besides an iPhone and an Android, you can go to the web app, and it has been modified for you to be able to view those on your mobile device, regardless of what it is. So that's awesome. Um, if you have something you're trying to do, so for example, Thomas, he says he owns an Italian restaurant and is offering a delivery service, and he wants to track multiple odometers throughout the night. You could be able to do that by either setting them up as multiple entities, or you could enter all those odometer readings in one account. So, Thomas, I hope that answers your question. If you need more clarification, go ahead and email us. But anybody who had any questions who did not get answered tonight, like I said, our support line has a direct line to Jake at Taxbot to get any of your questions answered. So if you did not have a chance to get your question answered tonight, please email us at support@wakeupnow.com and we will get your question answered. This webinar here, we'll make sure we get it cleaned up, edited up for you, and put up on our social media through our email and in our resources section tomorrow. So anybody who wasn't with us tonight will be able to watch it. But again, I just want to say thank you to Jake. Thank you for taking time to be with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you again next week for our Wednesday night training webinar. And if you have not already, plan on being there for tomorrow night for Darren O'Lyon. He'll be giving a presentation as well tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So thank you guys for all being with us, and we're going to wrap this up now. Thanks for your time tonight, guys. We'll talk to you soon.